Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling, as you will see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhollow today. We'll be relaxing as per usual in a rather late night episode, because that's just how things have happened today. What can we talk about today? I don't really know. Have a bit of a sip of water. I will say I have this most annoying, like, tiny little cut on like my my middle finger. Like on the inside, like I don't even know, like, hold on, they're called like phalanges or something, right? The different parts of a finger, like on the very bottom third of a middle finger on the inside, I have this tiny cut. It's like, I'd say it's like half a centimetre long or something. I have no idea where it came from, but it's so annoying because it's like such a difficult place to avoid, I suppose, whenever you're like washing your hands. But anyway, good evening everyone. Right now in Fawnhollow, it's 11:26 p.m. on Monday, June 26, 2023. I assume it's because maybe my hands get quite dry or something and it became cracked, but even then it doesn't really make sense because that's the only part, I suppose, where it's actually become like cut or something. And it's also like diagonal, I suppose, which I don't know if I'd expect that if it was because my hands are dry that they became cracked enough to actually form a cut. But I don't know, maybe it's like a paper cut or something. I have no idea where on earth I got that paper cut from, but it was actually something which was forming like a couple of days ago, where you got like a July 4th is Apollo's birthday, makes sense, America and all that. I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, it's a cut which I felt like forming for like the past few days because I like wash my hands and be like, that seems like something which, you know, hurts slightly more than water should do, which, you know, is most of the time I feel like water should probably hurt you about 0%, depending on the situation. I don't know, maybe if you're a wicked witch of West it might hurt you a bit more, but it was just like, where did this come from and where did it go? Where did it come from, Cotton Eye Joe? I don't know where this cut even came from, but like, it's like this tiny cut which I thought was healing over, like sealing over throughout this day, but apparently is not. Or maybe I accidentally opened it again just sort of by doing things, which is weird that it got opened again, because it's not, I guess, the worst place to have a cut. The worst place to have a cut is definitely like on a joint or something, because anytime you sort of like move that joint, it like opens a cut. Like the cut can never properly heal, I suppose, unless you're sleeping and you're like completely not moving. This one, it could be worse. Like, as long as I keep my third finger, I suppose, quite still, things are okay. But I generally don't know where it came from. I don't think it's a paper cut. I don't know how I'd have a paper cut here and not on my other fingers, nor how would I not notice it. Like, how would I have to be holding a paper? Like, I'd have to be clutching it like from the top or something. I mean, okay, I guess that's possible, you know. I don't know, it's just my instinct to sort of just like, it's because my hands were so dry or something, they sometimes became cracked. That was actually something which happened a lot to me in secondary school, because I remember I'd always, you know, I wash my hands probably more than the average person, I would say, but in our secondary school we had like these hand dryers, but these hand dryers were terrible because they were neither particularly hot, they were just like sort of windy, I suppose, and then they just like super dried out your hands. And I remember during wintertime it was terrible, because back then I didn't really like use hand cream or any sort of moisturizer, despite the fact I have pretty dry skin most of the time, so then my hands would just get unbelievably cracked. I remember one time, like I was in like a history lesson or something, and like a friend was like, hey, well, friend at the time, a classmate I should say, I haven't spoken to him since, not since a history lesson, since from school, was like, hey, do you want like some hand cream or something? And I was like, alright. And he was like, you should like really use some, like your hands are like super cracked and stuff. And I was like, okay, you know what, that's a fair enough point. I should probably start using hand cream. I'm not sure if it's since then I started using hand cream, but at some point I started using a moisturizer. I use Nivea Soft moisturizer generally most of the time, because it's sort of just like a very neutral one, I suppose. To be honest, it's very applicable for anything. You can use it anywhere. I use it on my hands, use it on my face. It's nice, you know. I'd imagine it's well respected. I don't know. I'm not really like shill, not sponsored by the way. And it's nice, you know. And I'm sure my skin thanks me for it. But of course, moisturize it in like a tiny paper cut. Even it is not a very deep cut, mind you, at all. It's not even like bleeding or anything. It hasn't bled at all today. But still, it's not like the most pleasant experience, I suppose, to get, or any sort of foreign objects in there, right? It's well, almost anything, I suppose, inside like cuts is an irritant, except for like, I don't know, antiseptic cream, but even then that kind of like stings. I remember actually that my first run-in with antiseptic cream, not cream, sorry, spray, was on a school trip. It was on a school trip, which was like a camping, hiking sort of hybrid back in year 8 or 9. Because I felt like I didn't have antiseptic like spray when I was younger, or whatever it's called, or like, I think it's called antiseptic spray. That sounds right. At least my parents never had it. We did used to have like this Chinese, like, I assume it's like a rubbing alcohol. I don't really know. It's a very, very strong not pungent, but it's a very, very strong medicinal sort of smell, which, you know, I guess kind of works as antiseptic because it kind of feels like it's the same sort of numbing cold sensation when it's put on your skin. We had that. I don't know what it's called. It's like pretty red. So if you know what it is, maybe it's like some ginseng herb or something. But anyway, I remember because it was during this hiking trip, it was like the second last day, we were playing like hide and seek or something. I can't remember exactly what we had to do. Were we seekers or were we hiders? I don't remember. But I remember there was at one point they were calling me because they were just like, you know, I went pretty far. Like, it was a huge area we had to search. I think we were seekers, and like one of the teachers went hiding. It was a huge area we had to search. I have no idea how on earth we would even be able to find a teacher. Oh, I did not mean to skip through the thing. Sorry, Captain. And then I was like in such a rush to get back because I was like, I didn't have a phone or watch at the time, so I was using my like camera to like record the time, but I think my camera ran out of battery or like something like that. I can't really remember, but I lost track of time. But after a certain amount of time, I was just like, yeah, this definitely has probably been like enough time that the game is over. So I just started heading back in that direction, and I'd like missed the path of where you were meant to go, so I ended up sort of like jumping through like stinging nettles to get to the rest of the group. And then, like, you know, at the time I didn't realise I was stinging nettles, but eventually we walked for a while and I just like looked down at my legs and they were just like absolutely covered with like nettle stings, and I was like, whoa, that didn't seem good. And amazingly, it didn't hurt or anything, because normally stinging nettles, the thing is, they're super itchy, and the problem with stinging nettles is as soon as you start itching them, it gets worse and worse and worse. So the best thing to do is to never touch them at all. It's because it's like stinging nettles have like these tiny little barbs on them with poison or something in, which when they break contact with your skin or something, they become an irritant and they spread around more or something or they inflame more or something when you itch it. I can't remember. But my friend had antiseptic spray, and I just remember him spraying it on my legs and it like having a numbing sensation, I suppose, in my legs, being like, wow, you know, I guess that kind of works. But the thing you're actually meant to do with stinging nettles is you're meant to have these, at least here in the UK, we have these things called dock leaves, which I never heard about because I'm not a survivalist, you know. I never went to guides or scouts or cubs or beavers or rainbows or I forgot what the other one's called, to be honest, off the top of my head. But I've never went to any of these like survival things where they teach you like how to survive out in woods, or, you know, how to tie knots, etc. And, you know, these sort of campground activities. I forgot where I was going with this. Yeah, but there's at least this plant called a dock leaf, which, and I don't know really if it's just, I don't know if like what sort of dock it is. I always thought it was like doctor leaf, like that sort of dock leaf. I don't know what it's actually called. Bitter dock. No, it seems like a DOCK sort of dock leaf, but I always thought it was dock isn't doctors. But, you know, today I learned what you can do is you pluck those and you just like rub those over your stinging nettle like stings, and then it like gives relief, which is wild. You know, it was my first time like being properly like stung multiple times by stinging nettles. I've been stung once before by stinging nettle, I remember, because there was some, for whatever reason, in our primary school, like on our road to school, of a path into school, there was like some stinging nettles just growing on the side. I don't know why on earth. Like we had gardeners at a primary school, or I suppose they were probably like janitors who doubled as gardeners. I don't know why on earth they didn't get rid of it, but whatever. And then me just sort of being like, I don't think this is a stinging nettle, and me like holding it and being like, yeah, I'm not getting stung. And I just kept like holding it, and then like 30 seconds later I got stung by the stinging nettle, and I remember like a little bump appearing on my thumb. Lesson learned that day. But anyway, yeah, you're going to get dock leaves and you just like rub them on your legs, and then rub them on the actual stings, and then woo, the just like it just like miraculously solves itself somehow. At least that's how it happened in my case. Like literally I just like rubbed it on like the bumps on my legs, and like any sense of like itchiness immediately gone, and like the bumps went down like super quickly afterwards. And so you're like, wow, this dock leaf really works. And this also, you know, I don't know if I actually talked about stinging nettles before, but it might be a very British thing, to be honest. But they're basically just these plants. They have a very distinct shape. You can look them up, and they just sting you as a defense mechanism. They're quite a common plant in the UK, I would say. So they're common enough that I would think most kids probably will learn very quickly how to identify them, either the easy way or the hard way. And I would recommend learning to be able to identify them so you don't randomly touch them. I guess I probably like the poison ivy of the UK, because poison ivy I don't think grows here, or at least if it does, I've never run into it. Let's see. UK poison ivy. Yeah, we don't have poison ivy. We have English ivy, which is not harmful, but it should be handled with care. Yeah. So I mean, like in America, there's poison ivy. In Britain, we have stinging nettles, I suppose, which I don't think necessarily the damage is equivalent, but you know, they have the same sort of vibe in my mind. Because another thing where you're meant to like identify poison ivy or something by its distinctive shape, right? Anyway, so dock leaves. But I remember one time in primary school again. I can't remember what year we were in. There were some girls, not me. I wasn't part of a group who were, I don't even know what we were doing, and I don't even know where I was. But they got stung, like a group of 4 of them or something, got stung by stinging nettles doing something, who knows what. And then they were like, the teachers were basically trying to find dock leaves to give to the girls. And I remember they could only find like 1 or 2 dock leaves, or something. So basically only like, no, what I think they could only find 1 dock leaf. So then the girls had to decide who would get the dock leaf to get the pain, and then like they'd all try and take turns like grabbing the dock leaf. On it, like in a certain, to try and get like any of the remaining oils to like relieve the pain. But I remember one of my friends, I mean they were all my friends, and when you're in primary school everyone's kind of your friend at that point. She was the last one to get the dock leaf, and she was like, I don't know what to do to like get rid of his, like relieve his pain. But I remember she used a Pritt stick, which is like a glue stick, and she just like use that on like her sting, and apparently it like kind of worked. I assume because a Pritt stick is kind of coldish, so it sort of really got some relief that way. And I remember because I was next to her when like the teacher came around being like, hey, there's some like, do you want to try using the dock leaf? And she was like, no, it's okay, I used a Pritt stick. It's all good. I don't know if I can't necessarily recommend a Pritt stick as a stinging nettle relief aid. I think it would be distinctly more likely that you would find a dock leaf rather than a Pritt stick if you're out camping and you got stung, but what do I know? Anyway, stinging nettle. Let's see. US stinging nettle, or was it very much a UK thing? Common nettle. Burn nettle. Nettle leaf. Utica diogacia. Yeah, I'm looking at the thing, very distinctive. This person's eating a stinging nettle. Why is he doing that? Even for a stock photo, that's not worth it, dude. Yeah, they're like very annoying, I would say, stinging nettles. Stinging nettle, pure absolute oil. Okay, I guess. These people are crazy. They're just holding the stinging nettles. Why would you do that? Yeah, I don't know if I have any other stinging nettle stories, to be honest. But those are the only 2 which really come to mind. I do remember when we found the dock leaf on that school trip. I mean, I didn't know what a dock leaf was. I just remember the teacher and people being like, we should look out for some dock leaves for dear darling, so she, you can relieve the pain of the stings. And I was just like, sure. But I was also like, I don't know what a dock leaf is, I'm going to be honest. But we found them. And honestly, the dock leaves look different from how I remember. Because I remember them as these giant sort of like lotus-esque leaves. So maybe what I had wasn't even a dock leaf. It just worked anyway. Maybe I found like a miracle cure. But I remember they were like some big, very big leaves. I would say like 20 by 10 centimeters like wide. We had a pretty big surface area and a big stalk. But I remember trying to pull out from the ground and I couldn't do it because it was like so stuck in there. So like the teacher had to like yank it out of the ground for me or something like that. That's what I recall. So maybe that wasn't even a sting. Maybe that wasn't even a dock leaf. Or maybe it was. I don't really know. I mean, it kind of looked like that. No, it did look like this. Okay, maybe there's probably just different types of dock leaves. So I don't know if dock leaves necessarily work on a load of different other things, but hey, if you ever come to the UK and you see a very sort of jaggedy plant, I would not touch it. It's quite a low-growing plant. It's not like a huge. It's not like poison ivy, which like climbs up walls or anything. It's like a foot tall, a foot to 3 feet tall, I suppose, at max. But 3 feet tall is very rare. I don't know. You can just Google it. But rather, oh, are you ill or are you just getting ready for bed? Are you just getting ready for bed? I think you're just getting ready for bed. Because do normal villagers go to bed at midnight? I don't know that. I don't think I've ever seen a villager just like in their pajamas, just chilling. That's wild. It also surprises me that all the villagers don't have their own like individual pajama style or pattern, but hey ho. Hit rocks, sell. Okay, we can't really sell things. I guess we'll hit balloon if we see one. We'll hit rocks as well. But yeah, stingy nettles. Yeah, kind of the bane of the British primary school sort of playground, because it's always like in the far side of a field, which is always like the grassy area which we have like next to the playground. I don't know. It feels like a universal constant. It's always called the field, in British schools or whatever. It's always like when you go to the far end, there's always nettles. And I remember actually, we had this thing in our primary school called the wild area. And you might be like, whoa, was it like a jungle? No, it wasn't like a jungle. It was basically just like the forest area at the back end of the field. And it basically just had like a nice sort of like woodland path that you could walk through. It was probably like a 20-meter long path or something. There was like bird boxes or whatever. But I remember we were like prohibited from ever going in there. And the wild area is kind of like a spooky name, I suppose, to give to a place in primary school. So I remember when I was super young, I was like almost like intimidated, being like, whoa, I can't go in there. I remember me and a friend, we were like daring each other to go into the wild area. Like we'd stick one foot and be like, ooh, I'm in the wild area. And, you know, we'd put like a leg and an arm in and be like, ooh, I'm half in the wild area. And then we'd be like, oh, you can't do that. Stuff like that. But still daring each other. I remember. Very funny times. Yeah, I forgot. I don't know what else. Anyway, there's always like stinging nettles in there or something. Because, you know, I don't know, I guess it's meant to be a wild area. It wouldn't be particularly wild if we got rid of the stinging nettles now, would it? Obviously, I'm just making this stuff up. Anyway, I guess I'll round this episode off here because I have no more anecdotes about stinging nettles. Don't touch them, I would say. You know, they are irritants. So, if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Twitter, Discord down below. Hope we can see each other again. But for now, it's our farewell. So until next time. Bye-bye for now.